You know, pretty much every project, whether it's huge or just getting started, eventually needs something from the outside. Maybe it's a special skill, some specific materials, or even a finished product. And let's be real, getting that outside help can feel, well, a little complicated. But it really doesn't have to be. So in this explainer, we're going to break it all down and give you a simple guide to making smart buying decisions for your project.
So, let me just ask you this, and it really gets to the heart of the matter. Think about the project you're working on right now. Is there something you need, a skill, a tool, a service, that your team just can't do on its own? If you just nodded your head, then guess what? You're already at the starting line of what we call project procurement.
And yeah, of course, there's a fancy official name for this. It comes from the project management body of knowledge. You might know it as the PMBOK guide. It's called Project Procurement Management. But here's the key. It's not just buying stuff. It's a whole formal process, and trust me, it's designed to save you from a ton of headaches by making sure you get exactly what you need on time and on the right terms.
We're going to break this whole thing down into a super simple 3-step journey. First, we'll plan the purchase. Then, we'll figure out how to choose the right seller. And finally, we'll talk about how to actually manage the deal after you've signed the papers. And stick around, because at the end, we'll wrap it all up into a handy little playbook for you.
All right, let's dive right into step 1, the plan. And honestly, this might just be the most important part of the whole shebang. This is where you do the hard thinking up front, so you can avoid massive headaches later on. It's all about deciding what to buy, when to buy it, and how you're going to do it. So, the very first question you have to ask your team is the classic make or buy decision. Does it make more sense for us to do this work with our own people, or is it actually cheaper, faster, and better to hire an expert from the outside? This one decision, well, it's the domino that kicks off the entire procurement process. And I really want to stress this. This planning phase isn't just busy work. The whole point is to build a crystal clear roadmap. A good plan is what keeps you from buying the wrong thing, it's what stops vendors from adding a bunch of extra stuff you didn't ask for, and it's what saves you from those oops moments that cost a ton of money. Now, this planning stage isn't just about ideas floating around in your head. You actually end up with some really important tangible documents. In fact, the PMBOK guide points to 4 key things you'll create here, and these are going to be your North Star for every decision that comes next.
Okay, let's break these down real quick so they're not so intimidating. The procurement management plan, that's your rule book. The strategy is your 30,000-foot view. Now, the statement of work, or SOW, you've got to pay close attention to this one. It's critical. It spells out exactly what you're buying, so there's no confusion later. And finally, the bid documents. That's the package you send out to get sellers to make you an offer.
All right, our plan is solid. We have our documents ready to go. What's next? It's time for step 2, choosing the right seller. This is where we take all that amazing prep work and go out into the real world to find the perfect partner for the job. And you see, this is where all that effort and planning really pays off. You're not just vaguely shouting into the void hoping someone can help. Nope. You are on a specific mission to find a qualified partner who can meet the very detailed needs you've already figured out. It's a total shift from thinking to doing. Okay, let's quickly decode those 3-letter acronyms you always see flying around. RFI, RFQ, RFP. What's the difference? Well, think of it this way. An RFI is like dipping your toe in the water, just gathering info. An RFQ is simple. How much will this cost me? And an RFP? That's for the big, complex problems where you need a seller to come to you with a custom-built solution. Knowing which one to use is a total game changer.
The selection process itself follows a pretty logical path. First, you put the word out there. Then, you might hold a conference to make sure everyone is on the same page about what you need. After that, you'll look at all the proposals that come in and, this is key, judge them against the criteria you already set up. And finally, you hammer out the last few details and sign on the dotted line.
So, the contract is signed. Woohoo! We're done, right? Time to celebrate? Whoa, not so fast. The ink is barely dry, and now the real work begins. Let's move to step 3, managing the deal. This is all about making sure the promises that were made in that contract actually happen. And this quote right here is exactly why this step is so critical. It comes straight from the source material and it hits the nail on the head. Anything not in the contract cannot be legally enforced. Let that sink in for a second. If you didn't write it down and get it signed, it basically doesn't exist in a legal sense. That contract is your single source of truth. Now, the official term for this is control procurements, but let's just boil it down to something much simpler.
Your job as the project manager is to make sure that contract is being followed by everyone. That means the seller, and it also means you. So what does that actually look like day to day? Well, it means you're actively keeping an eye on their progress. You're inspecting the work they hand in to make sure it's up to snuff. You're the one who manages any changes or claims that might pop up. You process the payments, and at the very end, you formally close everything out. It's not a set it and forget it kind of deal at all. Okay, we've walked through the entire process, from that first make or buy idea all the way to closing out the contract. So now, let's pull it all together into a simple, memorable playbook that you can use on your own projects.
And here it is, the whole process in a nutshell. Step 1, plan. Decide what, when, and how to buy. Step 2, choose. Go find the best seller and sign a fair deal. And Step 3, manage. Make absolutely sure the work gets done just like you agreed. That's it. That's the core of smart procurement. You know, when it all comes down to it, it's really just those 3 structured steps. And following them is one of the most powerful things you can do to protect your project, your budget, and your timeline from all the risks that come with working with outside vendors.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. The next time you need to buy something for your project, ask yourself this: is the contract you're about to sign going to be a safety net that protects you, or is it a trap filled with assumptions and future problems? The difference between the two really comes down to having a good process.